Hi there, you're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show about newsy type stuff and things. I'm the sweaty boy George.
Boy George is on the show.
Boy
Holy
George.
shit.
It's a huge get for us.
My name is Tom.
My name is Adam.
And with our powers combined, we are Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com.
Silence. I was trying to think of something funny to say about Boy George, but all I know about Boy George is the fantastic reference in Arrested Development, but we don't have time to get into that right now. Because, I guess quick show's a good show. Why are you a sweaty boy, George?
I don't know. I'm a naturally sweaty dude. I'm a perspirer. I come from a long line of sweaty dudes, nervous about things, overweight, breathing heavily through their
You
mouths.
sweat in all areas, or is it just like one specific area?
Oh, well, we're getting a bit personal here, aren't we, Adam? Yes, in all areas equally.
Okay, good to know.
Wonderful.
Yep. But yeah, look, a show about newsy type stuff and things, and you'll be glad to know that the world's still terrible. So we can probably wrap that up there.
There we go. Easy. Quick show's a good show.
Yeah.
Yeah. The world's terrible. Google it. Good night. Hang up.
Is it? Do you feel as though? Do you guys feel as though it's harder to make jokes about the news now than it has been in the past? That's something I'm really feeling at the moment. It's just like, where is the funny in like bombing a maternity hospital? I'm like, there's got to be a way that this is punching up to someone. There's got to be a way that this is funny, right? Surely, like.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you're right in that I sort of think like, oh, it's so hard to make light of things that are so awful. But when you say like, is it harder now to do it than it used to be? I would argue it's still just as hard. Just it wasn't funny when we thought it was easy. It was just in awful taste.
The key, Tom, you're saying for content and comedy is to actually just be a terrible person, basically.
Context is key, but sure, why not? You know what? At this point, fuck it. That's what I'm saying.
Local villain Tom Heath advocates Nazism. I can see the headlines now. You cancelled Tom.
Cut it down. I'm cancelled. I knew it would happen one day. I just didn't think it would be on the show. I assumed it would be like years down the track on Twitter with someone bringing up something I did on the show, not real time cancelling.
Right. I was going to say you didn't think that the show would be the source of your cancellation. I kind of assumed that that's what's going to get you cancelled.
Definitely the source, but not cancelled by you guys either as well.
That's fair.
Like if I'm going down, I'm taking you all with me. Speaking of which, okay, George is holding up, I hope not a sensitive document to his webcam.
Just trying to redo the white balance. It's looking a bit green. I look like I'm in the Matrix.
Yeah, it's fantastic for a predominantly audible medium. So speaking of if I'm going down, I'm taking you all with me. South Australia had an election this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday they had their state election and they flipped. The Liberal state government that has been there for the past term lost. Big news. I mean, it's so much more complicated than this, but I guess, a lot of political commentators have been taking this as like, oh, is this a sign for the federal election? Is this sort of a, can we conflate state to federal and all this sort of stuff? But, it's...
Who cares? Doesn't matter if we're allowed to or not. I'm going to. I'm a media commentator. Try and stop me.
Yeah, it's like, who am I to say? But I'm saying it anyway.
And 10 more minutes of me saying it. Yeah, so it is the first time since the pandemic started. I was going to say since the pandemic, as though the pandemic's over, because it's not quite. But since the pandemic,
tens of people dying every day in Australia.
No, completely normal and good. So since the pandemic started, that Australian government has been not returned. And it was one-term government, so it was kind of unusual. And by all accounts, South Australia seemed to do a fairly good job of dealing with the pandemic compared to other states in which we may or may not reside. It is unusual to flip a first-term premiership and then to do so like in such a landslide is a bit surprising. So people are saying it really had nothing to do with the South Australian leaders or the South Australian, Liberal and Labor parties as much as it had to do with people. Just Scott Morrison's poisoned the LNP brand, and that's sort of had a flow-on effect to the states. Now, if that is the case, it probably doesn't make that much of a difference for the federal election. There's only maybe 1, maybe 2 seats that Labor could hope to scoop up during that election. So it's not like, they're going to win all the seats in South Australia and just get carried on a wave of high-fiving angels into government. That doesn't seem to be the case. But it's interesting.
Well, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, it depends how you look at it, though. I mean, it could just be just a result of just the other guy. Like, we'll vote for anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, put a turd sandwich in there, and we'll vote for him because
anyone
we're sick
else.
of the giant douche, and literally anyone else. And the other aspect, I mean, there's that idea, which is just we want change, and we'll just vote for anything. At all.
Isn't that just two-party politics, though? Isn't that just what it is? It's just like one person fails spectacularly enough that we vote them out.
It's not the Labor brand. Do you know what I mean? It's not necessarily the Labor brand. It's just this guy looks really good in a suit, and in fact, there's pictures of him in the pool as well. And like, hey, he looks like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, you say he looks good in a suit. He looks good without it too.
Okay.
Damn.
All right. Okay.
We are talking about Peter Malinauskas. I think I pronounced that correctly. Malinauskas. Who basically was a factional, not factional, but what do they call it, union leader.
Rising star in the Labor Party.
Rising star in the union movement, then in the Labor Party. He was allegedly, involved in, previous leadership spills and this kind of thing. But, he's the grandson of Lithuanian, Hungarian refugees. And I think, I used to work at Woolies. Like, he ticks a lot of boxes in terms of the grassroots, family man sort of.
And
concept.
that's where I start to get nervous because they're like, he's a model citizen, rising star in the Labor Party. I'm like, oh no, he must have killed a bunch of prostitutes. What's wrong with him? What's wrong with him? What has he done? What skeletons have you got in the closet, Peter? No, he seems like an upstanding gentleman, and look forward to him leading the state.
So it's very interesting that again, just the whole situation. I was discussing with my dad today, and he brought up an adage that I guess I hadn't quite heard before, but I guess it makes sense. Of that the opposition doesn't win elections, governments lose them.
I think that's
the expression, but he sort of looked at it in a way of, but as you mentioned, George, like there wasn't really sort of an issue or like a controversy that the Liberal state government in South Australia lost. Like there wasn't some kind of big overwhelming backlash. Like even pandemic behavior, like even their policies around the pandemic weren't hugely controversial, not at the scale of like say Victoria's was and all this sort of or WA or anything like that. He was like, so governments lose them, but they didn't seem to lose it. So it's a really interesting situation that the opposition took the lead here when the government in power kind of wasn't fucking anything up at an overarching viewpoint, at like a bird's eye viewpoint. They haven't been fucking anything up. So
they weren't playing
fascinating.
April Sun in Cuba on 60 Minutes and blaming their wife for leaving the country during a crisis.
Exactly.
It is interesting that I mean, part of the negative campaigning I heard, I heard from journalists who covered it was that, Labor was sort of going after the Liberal Party on, banked up. There was a portion during the Omicron wave towards the start of this year where, there were banked up ambulances and that sort of stuff. And apparently that was a big part of Labor's campaign, was sort of hitting him on that. And Simon Birmingham, the finance minister, got on Insiders this morning and said, the David Spears asked him, he said, so what do you attribute this to, this big swing against you? And he goes, oh, bloody Labor tricked him, basically with negative scare campaign tactics. And I was like, hang on.
That's familiar.
You're so no introspection whatsoever. Your reason for having lost the South Australian Premiership is South Australians are real dumb. You're a bunch of idiots. I got tricked, you idiots.
Yeah. Yeah, you fell for the kind of scare tactics we do.
Over? Like, what were they? What was
They're like,
the route?
see, this is how Mediscare works, and so it was basically just saying like they ran a dodgy campaign and they tricked South Australia, and they're a bunch of pricks. I was just like, okay, it's good to know that the Liberal Party is really, listening, they're learning, and they're acting, as Tony Abbott once said. Acting on calling their constituents gullible idiots, which may not be the surest path to victory I've ever seen before. But it's an interesting tactic. Cotton, let's see how he goes.
Yeah, but yeah, so I guess that was a big swap, and I think just I actually would be handy to have the figures in front of me, but I don't at this point. But that the swing percentage was quite high.
Yeah,
especially in some of the seats where it wasn't Labor retaining them, it was Labor gaining them.
Yep,
I think I saw the seat of Adelaide. There was like an 8% swing away from Liberal straight to Labor. Like you didn't see it go to the Independents; it went straight to them.
Yeah, so statewide, it was about a 5.5% swing to Labor, according to Anthony Green last night. Anthony
Green.
Anthony. I swear they said Anthony.
Anthony.
Anthony
Do
Green.
not besmirch the good name of our the election lord.
So
Anthony
it looks
Green.
like Labor's going to about 25, maybe 26 seats, and the Liberals currently at 13. They might pick up another 3 or so. So yeah, this is a bit of a wipeout.
Independents and other smaller parties, I think, in play as well, which will be interesting. So I mean, what it means is they've got the 25, so they don't need to.
They've got government, Labor.
They don't need to, negotiate with the crossbench or anything like that.
Well, unless the crossbench starts siding with the Liberal Party, like unanimously, then
even if they do, they've got a majority.
It's still not enough. Still okay, cool.
Unless, I'm not sure how does South Australia have 2 houses? Some of the states got rid of their bicameral system.
South Australia might be one of the ones that has one level. I have to check on that.
I thought they'd have upper houses. I don't know. But yeah, so
got rid of their bicameral system a few years ago.
I'm pretty sure Queensland's only got one. South Australia it does 2 houses, Legislative Council and their House of Assembly.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how
but the lower house is the one that makes government, right?
Yes, but we're not sure whether the upper house necessarily has what the numbers are up there. From what I've been reading, I haven't really seen anything. So
yeah, but some crazy, some big, exciting news, and I wish the hunk of spunk elect, luck on his upcoming term.
If this was a woman, we were talking about how fucking sexy she was, this new premier. I think lots of people would have a problem with that, Tom. I mean, granted, the man he's a tall drink.
But we're not, are we? So
he is a tall drink of water. I'm just saying that that's not the only thing that's relevant about
Sidebar, actually, interesting sort of transition with this topic. It's recently this week, Scott Morrison had a bit of a go at Anthony Albanese because he started to work out and he's looking a bit fit and he's happy on a diet.
Can I just say, that's a weirdest fucking... Scott, honestly, you're a fucking ghoul, bro. You're such a ghoul. What a weird, shitty, nasty... You just can't stop being a fucking prick for 2 seconds to just be like, mate got healthy... Like, that's a good. And Barnaby Joyce said something to the effect of like, they said in Barnaby, like, what's the story? What do you think about Scott Morrison having a go at Albo for losing weight? And he goes, oh, good on him. I should probably lose some weight. I'm a fat piece of shit. Good on him.
Barnaby does look like he's one step away from a heart attack at any given
Barnaby Joyce looks like he's constantly having a coronary at all times. He's in mid-aneurysm all the time. So sorry, go on.
I was going to say it's an interesting tactic to sort of be like, how do you want to besmirch your, that softball question would be like, how do you want to besmirch the leader of the opposition being like, oh, he used to be fat and he changed his glasses. Can't trust him. Like, what?
It's interesting though, because obviously the Labor, it would be, I'm assuming this is a deliberate push by the Labor to try to sort of clean up Anthony Albanese's
you saw the photo shoot, right? Was it Women's Weekly?
Sexy Albo, yes, it was. It literally was Women's Weekly, it was Albo with like in a linen shirt, kind of looking at the camera and being like, hey girl, you want to vote for some healthcare?
Giving us like the
something
Hugh
though that-
Jackman sort of spread that you get, like just the Hugh Jackman kind of look in the Women's Day or whatever, just
Don't
being
say
like
spread.
arms folded, kind of.
I don't want to hear
Nice,
the words elbow
icy
and
stare.
spread in the same sentence. Adam, you were saying?
So yeah, but it's obviously a tactic which they know works. You know, case in point with the new premier in South Australia. So
What
as to whether or not
humanize them, you mean make them a bit attractive?
no, I'm not humanize. I'm like make them look tidy and respectable and better looking.
Yeah, well, my dad always said to me,
so when you go to the paper, when you go to the little ballot box, and you go, oh fuck, I don't know, oh, there's just one with the Scotty, and then there's the other guy, and oh, he looks all right. Yeah, no, I'll just go 1, 2, 7. Oh, I've just invalidated my vote. Oh well, I'll put it in the box. So it's for people like that literally have no idea. It literally is just about a recognizable image where they just go,
not to get too in the weeds, but yeah, there's been American research that covers this. It's basically the people who have who are attractive and have superior body language poll better with potential voters, even in scenarios where they're watching a speech with the sound off. So it's like you don't know the content of what it is they are saying in the speech, but like looking at one soundless speech with guy with, you know, small dick energy, schlubby fatso Magoo over here versus like handsome, like, you know, ex-military buzz cut, you know, America fuck yeah looking guy over here. And the America fuck yeah looking guy
never gets a run. But that doesn't explain Donald Trump. So I don't know. It's a weird.
Yeah, I mean, nothing explains Donald Trump. Donald Trump is an anomaly in every respect, right? Like,
I think also no one ever watched Donald Trump on mute.
That's true.
You either were watching it or not at all.
You just be like, you look at him gesticulating wildly, and you go, "What is he talking about?" I bet it's Mexicans. And you turn the sound up, and he's like, "And another thing, the toilets, they don't flush. There's no water in the toilets. You got to flush it 5-6 times." I did not expect he was going to be talking about toilets. That is surprising to me. He has the same vociferous energy as when he was talking about Mexicans as when he was talking about toilets. That is surprising. A constant enigma.
Staying on Labor and going federal. We're on federal, but we'll move to the Senate in the Senate. Unfortunately, this week we did lose one of our senators, Kimberley Kitching.
Was it week before?
Maybe
I think. I believe she passed away. Yeah, like last week.
But it became what we might call a headline issue this week due to an article that was published in, I think, The Australian, from memory, where some of her, quote, friends and allies came out and basically said that she'd been bullied recently, over the last couple of years while she's been in the Senate. Apparently what had happened was there was, as a part of the Jenkins report, you know, but people in Parliament had to do a bunch of like training, basically, on, you know, how to not be a dickhead in Parliament.
Appropriate workplace behaviour training,
right?
So what the rest of us all have to do, and they're finally doing it for Parliament.
They were doing that, and then apparently what she said was to the trainer at the end of it. She goes, "What are you going to do about the fact that I've been bullied?" And there's some other things that have been said, and basically what the article was referencing was that there were 3 key, or, you know, big, well-known Labor senators, one of them being Penny Wong, Christina Keneally, and Katie Gallagher, the other 2, that had basically been labelled as mean girls by, I think, the article in The Australian, as far as I'm aware.
Sounds like something The Australian would refer to them as.
Basically, they'd been effectively bullying her.
Yeah. And I think the way that connects to, I guess, this story more is that the circumstances around the senator's death was of a heart condition, and the allegations there being that the bullying and the stress and all these sorts of things may have led to the development of said heart condition is at least line that people are drawing.
It's such a gross... I don't know.
It feels gross.
I don't know that I really expected anything better out of the LNP with this, but I kind of feel like the only sane response to when one of your colleagues dies is like, fuck, that sucks. I'm so sorry. Condolences to her family. She was so young. She's 52. Like, That's obviously a tragedy. My thoughts are with the family at this time. Like, anything that comes out of your mouth that is not that, shut the fuck up. So when Peter Dutton says, "Oh, there should be inquiry. The Penny Wong bullying is what killed her," like, I don't know that there's much lower that you can go as a human being, but to use a colleague's death as a political football in order to advantage your side of the debate. Like, I don't know that there's much lower that you can go. I know I say that every week, and yet we seem to break through the bottom of the barrel and find and excavate new areas to scrape. But it just seems like the grubbiest, using someone's death to your advantage seems like the grubbiest fucking thing that you could do. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's pretty bad, especially because we're like, if you look at the broader ramifications of like where we're at. So it's obviously a, oh yeah, I mean the article came out from the Australian, which is a Murdoch paper. And then obviously the sources were allegedly people within the Labor Party or friends and family that, may have known what was going on. And then, yeah, the LNP have sort of jumped on it as a sort of football that they can kick around. It's yeah, I mean, even Bill Shorten, it's funny because Bill Shorten has said, yeah, the stress of politics, like, no doubt would have contributed potentially to that.
That was a very emotional interview. I don't know how you could watch that and go watch him talking about her, his voice trembling, because she was a close personal friend of his and he got her involved in politics.
He basically parachuted her into the seat.
He was really upset. He was really moved by it, and you could see that. I don't know what kind of person watches that and goes, excellent. Yes, I could use this. Maybe I can win the seat of Eda Monaro as a result of this.
So Penny Wong and the other senators have put out a statement saying that they flat out reject the claim of bullying. They did have disagreements about certain policies or work that they were working on, but yeah, the concept of bullying was something that they've dismissed. There was other stuff at play in terms of pre-selection, which would have been probably playing on her mind as well. That would have been happening in the background. So basically, context, the federal branch of the Labor Party has sort of taken over the Victorian branch of the Labor Party because of branch stacking allegations. But what that means is that within the Victorian branch, because there's apparently a left and right faction within the Labor Party in Victoria, there is a movement at the moment to kick out some existing sitting senators like Kim Carr and apparently Kimberley Kitching, because she's more sort of from the right faction of the, well, yeah, I mean,
she's been described as
of the party. Yeah, so that would have been playing on her mind because the nominations had to be in by, I think it was, I don't know if they have to be in already or whether they had to be in by a certain date, but yeah, there was a sort of deadline coming up that would have been making that stressful. So all of this was obviously probably played into that condition that she had. But yeah, the concept of weaponizing it, especially when she doesn't have the agency to respond to that,
talk about her side of it, and like being branded as a traitor for sort of speaking, I heard like one of the allegations based on her like receiving a one-way text through Signal. It's like not even something she responded to, and it's like all of this is like the woman is not around to defend herself. Like that's what I mean. Like all that should be being said right now is like condolences and I'm so sorry for your loss. And for it to be like on the front page of the paper and being used as a political football is just gross, man. I don't know how else to describe it. Like,
and they've and Labor have obviously they've had to react to it. They can't just sort of ignore it. So Labor's deputy leader Richard Marles has said, "Oh, the party's going to have to assess its internal culture in an ongoing way," and that's fair enough. But like the fact they've had to, they haven't been able to just dismiss it. They've had to sort of engage with it because they know otherwise
that's gross.
It would be. They know that it would be weaponized.
It's at least the Labor Party has women to abuse. The Liberal Party doesn't have that many women to abuse.
That is terrible, George.
There are some
women. That is.
Is that what got me cancelled in 5 years? Yeah. This clip right now.
Yeah, yeah. I think that clip right now.
Bridget McKenzie.
It's an interesting one. The thing I find interesting about this is that, because this is so soon after and in the context around like her death, is what I feel makes this really kind of grubby and awful. Because on the flip side of it is that, like, there's been so much talk around, culture within Parliament House, within the Liberal Party, within their staff, and all that sort of stuff, that when allegations such as these are leveled against the Labor Party, if they are saying, no, we're not going to investigate this sort of stuff, really doesn't look good for them. But the context around it being used as a political football around a woman's, very tragic death kind of makes it better. I don't know. I've felt very strange about this one. I've found, I agree with George in that it's like really disgusting and grubby for people like Peter Dutton and all that to try and use this as material. But at the same time, I get it when people are saying like, oh, but don't just sweep allegations of toxic culture just away because, oh no, it's too soon to be talking about it, kind of thing, right?
It's obviously gross, right? You don't want that kind of workplace culture. It is still a workplace, right? That's the thing you got to remember. It's a workplace. Like, I know you guys might be on opposite sides of an issue or whatever, but like, it's still a workplace. These are still your colleagues. And like, bullying and those kinds of, workplace culture things are not good. Like equally Brittany Higgins being, allegedly raped in Parliament House and then having it covered up is also not good. There's lots of not good things happening in this building, but like it is, I know, workplace culture is that is a thing that every workplace needs to deal with everywhere. I like issues about sexual assault and sexism and things like that in the building, I think are a grade above. It's not equal. It's not the same thing. No. And I feel like the LNP is trying to use it to make that case. You'd be like, well, see, we've got shitloads of problem with women, what with the rapes and all, but they've got problems with women as well. It's basically the same thing, right? Like that's the equivalency they're trying to draw. And it's like, no, one is definitely worse than the other.
If anything, it just shows that, when we've been focusing a lot in the last couple of years on the last 9 years on the factionalization of the broad church of the coalition. But the Labor Party has pretty significant factions as well. And we forget that those factions deposed two prime ministers, in the early 2010s. So
I don't think anyone denies.
And those grievances haven't gone away. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like the union camp versus the progressives on the other side of it, and all this kind of stuff. Like that hasn't gone away over the last 9 years. I guess that the question being is how much more does Labor have their shit together as a team than the coalition do? Who, I mean, Labor are said to have a policy where it's very much like you get on message and you stay on message, whereas the Liberals, it's a bit more sort of apparently freedom to say whatever you fucking want, but.
But they still sort of seem to have some consistent, well, at least maybe not the Liberal Party, but the Nationals within the coalition. That's getting a bit off topic, actually, but I want to bring that up. Let's put a pin in that. I don't know. Yeah, I feel just, I guess, wrapping things up with talking about the response to Senator Kitching's death. I don't know. It seems that it's how politicized it is that I think is the big grubby awful problem. It's like, all right, if there were allegations of if there's allegations of mistreatment or toxic culture and things like that, look into them. That's your due diligence as a workplace. But also, a person has died. Right. Let's have some respect around that and not be like hopping. Like, I don't want to see fucking anyone hopping up on the Bolt report just to have a good howdy do go. It's like, do things like a workplace, but don't be just scoring political points off this. It's disgusting. Particularly, I don't know. It's like the allegations aren't like, what this person murdered that person. Right? That's different. If it's like, oh, maybe one of the members of the Labour Party is a murderer, would be a big story that we should be looking into. That's not what's happened.
Dutton's suggestion that there be an investigation is clearly nothing more than a bad faith attempt to use the death of a colleague to smear the other side. Like it's really like we got to get investigated. It's got to be a whole investigation, mate. We got to get a royal commission on this as soon as possible. Says Dutton in good faith. Yeah, right. Meanwhile, what was her name? Bridget Archer last year crossed the floor and got ambushed, got pulled aside, and had a good fucking talking to. And that was
a big talking to.
Yeah, that was in the headlines for a day, and there was certainly no fucking investigation. If they're not going to investigate the rape, the alleged rape, they're certainly not going to investigate workplace bullying on the other side. So it's a bit fucking rich coming from these guys, but not to do not to do the whataboutism that we critique so much on the show. But it's like, make sure your own house is in order, fucking Peter, before you start leveling that sort of accusation.
Especially your own house being in order in investigating allegations of toxic workplace culture. Like, it's like that specific sort of like stuff that you aren't doing. Guys, so you can't level that bullshit.
Voldemort reckons we should investigate workplace harassment culture, said the Lord of Darkness. All right, mate.
Yeah. What are you going to say about the Nationals?
Oh, yes. I think I didn't share this into the rundown. But related to the ongoing conflict happening in Ukraine right now with the Russian invasion and everything. Have you noticed that the party line, it seems, among at least two Nationals MPs, the rather prominent ones, like Barnaby Joyce and Matt Canavan, have been stop badgering us on climate change because war is happening in Ukraine. That just seems to be their thing. Like, they get talked to about climate change, and they say, "Oh yeah, I bet those people in Ukraine carrying." I think Barnaby Joyce said something about carrying coffins out of churches in Ukraine are worried about climate change. Yeah, I bet they are. So it's sort of a thing of there are more important, pressing things to worry about, like a war that's happening, than discussing climate change. It's just the next thing in the line of things that they say, no, now's not the time to talk about it because of X. And also Matt Canavan had an article in The Australian or something like that was essentially the same kind of premise of...
We did just send 70,000 tons of coal to Ukraine.
And that happened. And they're probably frothing that. They're like, oh, yes, you want our coal? It's like, yeah, well, maybe because they're in a war, they can't exactly be like investing in renewables while they're being shelled.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the climate emissions of Ukraine. That certainly was not...
Yeah, not right now.
We're not lecturing them on their emissions right now. So I don't know what the connection is between the two. It's just like, don't you know there's a war on? We can't talk about any of the things I've done wrong. We can't talk about my fourth family. There's a war on.
Yeah, I just thought it was particularly galling and comical that they have somehow
vintage Barnaby
somehow taken the war going on in Ukraine to make it about climate change, or about their inaction on climate change, or about not talking about their inaction on climate change. It's just stunning.
The government wanted an appeal this week. We didn't put this in the rundown either. The government wanted an appeal that the environment minister was not
that's right.
For what was the exact terminology?
Duty did not have a duty of care to young Australians, or to the children or future Australians, to ensure that they have an environment that is habitable. The environment minister doesn't have a duty of care. Oh my God. That was a win. That was a win for them. They're like, hey, a court said that we don't have to give a fuck about children, you guys. Yeah, it's like the end of the taco ad. Everyone's getting lifted up in the air. Coming around. Oh, amazing. It's just, oh, fuck. You couldn't script this shit. Like, I think
why don't we not give a fuck about climate change, and as well as extract all the mineral wealth out of the ground, enriching ourselves and leaving nothing behind? Porque no les dos?
Just amazing. I think if Veep didn't do anything this crazy.
You wouldn't buy it. You'd be like, oh, that's unrealistic.
Just like,
It's got to be a weird day where they're like, pop the champagne. We're not responsible for future generations. Fuck them. Let's break a marble table.
I saw someone say like, "Oh, I can't wait for this to, remember this day when the environment minister's brought against the 2066 Hague for crimes against climate change or whatever."
I did see an article today actually, which was interesting, talking about how millennials are pretty rightfully pissed off about the state of the world, and over the next coming decade or two, we're going to be millennials as a generation are going to be rising to positions of political power, and obviously there's going to be a reckoning, and tax concessions and capital gains taxes, and things to do with climate change are going to change, and all this sort of stuff. And it was a very sort of a utopian kind of like, don't worry, things are all going to get better, kids. And I'm like, yeah, but in 20 years, will be too late. By all accounts,
in 20 years, it's too late.
Very too late.
It's going for cheap.
Mm-hmm. Say again, what's going for cheap?
So would you like the burning hellscape? It's going for cheap.
The burning hellscape, yeah. Property prices have diminished somewhat. My property portfolio is looking somewhat less good since we entered a Mad Max hellscape, but you just got to lower the interest rates and they'll pick up again. Don't worry. In the fullness of time, everything will come back around. Property never goes down.
Don't worry, George, because by that point, in 20 years, we're going to be on Mars, according to one Elon Musk.
Certainly Mars will be indistinguishable from Earth, so we may as well be on Mars.
May as well be on Mars. It's the same sort of thing. The atmosphere will be gone. But, that is, of course, assuming that he doesn't lose his death match with Vladimir Putin. Because Elon Musk's a reckless,
simultaneously, obviously, one of the smartest humans alive. He's obviously... Yeah. I've never seen a bigger disparity between how smart and driven someone is in their professional life versus how dumb and childish someone is in their personal life and on Twitter. The gulf between those two for Elon Musk is cavernous. That is Mariner's Trench level gulf between those two. Is the Grand Canyon of golf between those two ideas. The guy is a literal fucking child on Twitter. He basically in a tweet said
on tweet. Let's tell them what happened.
What's the tweet? Yeah, give us the tweet.
So he tweeted in a mix of English and Cyrillic. He said, "I hereby challenge Vladimir Putin to single combat. And the winner stakes are Ukraine." And he then tagged the official Vladimir Putin Kremlin account.
Yeah. 1v1 me, bro.
1v1 me, bro.
Yeah. This is some Call of Duty.
Obviously a joke, George.
Okay, but when a nuclear war is at stake, maybe don't fucking joke about it, Elon. Maybe it's not your place, bro, to be joking about the potential apocalypse. It's not a funny joke to it's just not.
I think it's pretty funny. I don't know. I can see the humor in it.
You have a responsibility as one of the most, as one of the richest, most listened to people in the world. You have a responsibility to not say dumb shit on the internet. There is some sort of internet charter of human rights things somewhere written down where it says, "Thou shalt not be a fuckwit if you're worth over $100 billion," because things that you say move markets. So maybe shut the fuck up, Elon. Shut up.
Yeah. And it's amazing also because, the stakes are Ukraine. So really, if this went down and he beat Putin, then he gains Ukraine. I think people, that's the thing. Is then Elon Musk owns Ukraine. That's the rules of trial by combat, of single combat. So it's dumb on extra levels.
So Vladimir Putin didn't respond, but the leader of the Chechen Republic... The leader of the Chechen Republic did respond, and they actually had a pretty, a sort of serious but funny, weird sort of we're joking at each other, but seriously, you would die.
Isn't it funny? Kind of conversation. It's so funny. You know that woman who was pictured running out of the maternity hospital bleeding last week? Yeah, she died. It's fucking hilarious. It's so funny that a maternity hospital was bombed. You fucking psycho.
It's kind of weird that the Chechen guy was like, oh, well, if you were to fight Putin, like, you know, like you'd have to deal with me. So, you know, like tough. But anyway, it was weird. He actually invited him to come and do like training with them in Chechnya. And then he's like, save your hands. They'll need to tweet or something. I don't know. It was very weird. But they ended up like ending the whole like Twitter exchange on like he actually, the Chechen leader thanked him. He's like, by the way, I think what you did with the Starlink satellites is actually really nice for people. God.
It's so stupid. It's that we live in the dumbest possible timeline, honestly. You know how they're like, when there's like episodes of Black Mirror and they're like, oh, you know, it's the apocalypse and everyone's tweeting sort of thing. And you're like, that's ridiculous. We wouldn't do that. We absolutely fucking would do that. We are those people.
Oh, yeah.
We are the social rating system people. Like Black Mirror is not a television show. It is a future portal into a sad, terrible world that we are hurtling towards.
Yeah. And I feel that was Charlie Booker. That was Charlie Booker's point. I think that was his idea from the get-go. With Black Mirror.
The creator of Black Mirror, yeah.
Yeah.
Done very well, that show. It's got several seasons, I think, hasn't it now?
Yeah. Well, and each episode's kind of like a movie. So it's sort of like they just made a lot of movies. Need to watch more of them when I'm willing to feel sad.
Yeah, I tapped out with Black Mirror. I saw the one about the kid who's a pedophile, and I was just like, man, I can't watch any more of these. This makes me too fucking sad. I got to tap out. I think I'm done with this. Because it's either like either you walk into the sea or you keep watching. Like that is how you feel after watching episodes of Black Mirror.
Probably also how you feel after listening to an episode of us. Either because the world's terrible or because we're terrible. Either way.
The Elon Musk thing, I wanted that to be like a fun moment of levity at the end of the episode. A little sorbet to cleanse the palate. You know, something that'd be like a nice, fun, happy thing. It's like, haha, remember? But it's also sad. It's all sad.
It's incredibly sad. I don't know, but I suppose to make
those... I'm to dig you out of this now. Like you've just walked yourself into
I don't know.
Negative energy finish.
Question. Okay, can you dig me out of this? Please.
No is the answer. I cannot do that. You've just dug yourself too deep.
I mean, the joke that I was setting up before, but we moved on to Elon a bit sooner. So if you want to pretend that it was before the Elon story, we could maybe end on something a little bit funny.
Okay.
I've probably oversold it now.
Great. Yeah. Let's turn back time, as the song says. And
so, I mean, George, your suggestion of that, more millennials are going to be coming into power and will solve climate change and all these sorts of issues, but it'll be 20 years too late. So really is what that article and you advocating for, that we crack out the guillotines and anyone in Parliament born before 1981 dead, done, replace them, rise up. Where will you hide when the revolution comes? Is that the solution we're going for here?
Moment of levity, as much as it is.
Are you saying Eat the Rich, Tom?
Yeah, this is Eat the Rich, Tom, and it doesn't involve any references to shelling maternity hospitals. So it's the best I got.
No, but it does involve murdering people.
Yeah, for fun.
Add people.
Yeah, I don't know if we're ready to go into revolution will not be televised mode just yet. I don't know if we're quite there.
No? Okay.
So just to recap, Tom's moment of levity was class genocide. On that note.
Oh, good. Fuck.
I mean, bad class genocide? Can you give me that?
Oh, God. Why don't we should really balance our articles out a bit better.
You know what we need? For every article that makes us want to walk into the sea, we need to do one about fun animals, or here's a dog riding a skateboard. And I know it's an audio medium, but we could just describe it. We could talk through there are podcasts that are much more. There are murder podcasts that are more lighthearted than this, than just us talking about the news. There's funny murder podcasts that are more lighthearted.
I guess it means the Herald Sun just makes so much more sense now. They'll have all the awful news and all the bile and terribleness, and then probably around page 8, there's just a giant thing of tiger at the zoo somehow had puppies, and we're all like, yeah, makes perfect sense.
Look at this girl. She's in a bikini. I don't know why this is in the newspaper, but okay, Herald Sun.
Yep.
Kanye West has been banned from performing at the Grammys due to concerning online behavior. So, how's that go for some funny news? No.
I mean, that's not the concerning online behavior. I think was threatening to murder Pete Davidson. If I'm not incorrect,
bad.
It's a threat.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
let's wrap this up.
I feel Kanye's behavior stopped being funny a while ago when it just went well and truly into he needs help. Someone needs to help him. This has gone beyond funny eccentricities, and this is a man in need of help.
He broken.
There's
speaking of broken,
just looking at top trending.
No, are you desperately just trying to find a puppy story? Like
just one happy. Living and loving as an anti-vaxxer who is TikTok's masked vigilante. That's concerning.
Living and loving as an anti-vaxxer? Was a top trending thing.
Where is the anti-lockdown movement headed? Hopefully nowhere fast. Doctor offers bogus COVID remedies for social media likes.
Hilarious.
Brazil's bubble of bad vaccine info. That's bad.
Okay, now come on. These are all worse than my joking suggestion that we get out the guillotines for the older generation.
Oh, here we go. The anti-vax movement targeting German children. There you go. That's a bit of fun.
Yum.
Yeah, no, fuck you guys for weighing shit on me for that. that was sadder.
And on that note,
end the show. End it.
On that note, we always will be Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. Make sure you follow us on all the bullshit social medias that are ruining the world that have, do, or ever will exist at Unnatural Show. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and motherfucking TikTok. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Twitter, where oddly enough, I don't talk very often about eating the rich and getting out the guillotines. I save that just for here. But if you want to... hear me talk about video games and like my fiance's comedy tweets, you can follow me at Tom D. Heath.
You can follow me on Instagram at AC Dream, where I do absolutely nothing interesting.
And, a school sheltering 400 was hit by a Russian airstrike in Ukraine. So that's a bit of, just a little bit of levity to end the show on there. So that's just a school hit by a Russian airstrike. Good. That's great. Thanks for listening, guys. Love your faces. We'll see you next week. It's great. Everything's going great. Cool and normal.
Yeah.
Good and fun.
Who should 1v1 Elon Musk then, you think? Just let's separate it from a terrible thing to be like making light of a war. Who should it be?
Me.
You?
Yeah.
You know what? I'd watch.
I'd watch as well.
Yeah, well, you'd be in it, so you kind of have to watch.
Yeah.
You'd have to watch his fists coming towards your face. Yeah.
Don't do it, Elon. Think of your children. AR-15 and...
Zay.
Helicopter blades or whatever the other one's called. I don't know. All right. Bye. End the show. Bye.